Have you ever had a moment where everything around you seemed to fall apart? A friendship ends, a plan collapses. You lose something or someone you never imagined life without. And in that moment, the world doesn't just look different, it feels different. Time slows down and the noise of life suddenly grows deafening. You start to wonder why it's all happening to you now again. Most people respond to these moments with panic or despair. They fight, resist, or try to fix what's already gone. But what if you didn't need to fight the chaos at all? What if peace wasn't something you had to find, but something you could build even as the world burns around you? The Stoics, those quiet philosophers of ancient Greece and Rome, believed this was possible. To them, peace was not a gift of the world, but a discipline of the mind. They taught that when everything collapses, it's not your control over the world that saves you. It's your control over yourself. You see, most people misunderstand peace. They think it's the absence of conflict, of stress, of uncertainty. But real peace, the kind the Stoics spoke of, exists in spite of those things. It's not silence because the storm is gone. It's silence within the storm. This is the heart of Stoicism. Not withdrawal, not indifference, but mastery. The art of standing firm while everything else moves. Today, we'll explore how this ancient philosophy can help you find strength when life feels unbearable. How you can stop being tossed around by what happens to you and begin to choose how you respond to it. Because once you master that, the world can take everything from you and still, it cannot touch your peace. Stay until the end because what you'll discover here might change how you see pain forever. We live in a time of noise, not just the sounds of cars, phones, and notifications, but the psychological noise that never stops echoing in our minds. Our thoughts race, our attention scatters. We wake up already feeling behind and go to sleep with unfinished tasks circling like vultures in our heads. We scroll endlessly through the lives of others, measuring our worth in fragments of comparison. And somewhere deep down, we've convinced ourselves that peace is something that exists out there, somewhere after we achieve, prove, or fix enough. The modern world has made us experts at doing, but amateurs at being. We've built technologies that can reach other planets, but not practices that can help us sit calmly with ourselves. And so we live constantly unsettled, not because the world has grown worse, but because we've forgotten how to anchor ourselves within it. When Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, wrote his Meditations, he was surrounded by war, betrayal, and death. He was ruling a collapsing empire, losing his children, and facing constant illness. And yet, in his private writings, he spoke of calm, of reason, of acceptance. He reminded himself, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." Marcus wasn't writing from comfort, he was writing from chaos. And yet, he managed to build stillness within that storm. It's tempting to believe our suffering is unique to this era, that anxiety, distraction, and emotional exhaustion are new diseases. But what if they're just modern faces of an ancient problem? The human tendency to cling, to resist, to fight against the way things are. Stoicism doesn't ask us to ignore pain, it asks us to understand it, to trace it back to its roots, and see that most of it comes from one single, universal cause, the illusion of control. We suffer most when we try to command what was never ours to begin with. We break when we expect the world to move according to our plans. And this is where the modern storm begins. not in the noise of life, but in the false belief that peace will come once everything goes our way. The Stoics would tell us the opposite. Peace comes when you stop needing it to. So if life feels out of control, it might not be because the world is too chaotic. It might be because we've forgotten what's truly within our control and what never was. Imagine this. You're standing in the rain without an umbrella. Your instinct is to run, to hide, to complain about the weather. But the Stoic pauses. They feel the rain. They know it falls without their permission, and they stop wasting energy trying to stop it. The difference between suffering and serenity in that moment isn't the weather. It's acceptance. Epictetus, born a slave, taught that freedom has nothing to do with circumstance. He said, "There is only one path to happiness. Cease worrying about things beyond your power." To most people, that sounds simple, almost too simple. But in practice, it's the hardest thing a human being can do, because our minds are addicted to control. We want certainty in love. We want predictability in success. We want recognition, understanding, validation. And when the world doesn't obey, we panic because we've tied our peace to something outside ourselves. Think about how often this happens. You send a message and wait for a reply. You post something and check how many people noticed. You try to explain yourself, hoping someone finally understands. You do good, expecting others to return the same. Each of these moments reveals a truth the Stoics understood thousands of years ago. We hand over our peace too easily. We let the reactions, moods, and judgments of others dictate our emotional weather. We chase control where none exists and neglect the one place it always does, our own mind. This is the Stoic dichotomy of control, the foundation of their entire philosophy. They divided life into two categories: what is within your control and what is not. Within your control, your thoughts, your choices, your actions, your attitude. Beyond your control, everything else. That's it. Just two boxes. And yet, most of us live as if everything belongs to the second one. The Stoics didn't see this as pessimism. They saw it as liberation. When you stop trying to command what isn't yours, you free your energy to master what is. This doesn't mean giving up. It means seeing clearly. It means saying, "I will act with virtue, effort, and courage, but I will not tie my peace to the outcome." The Stoic doesn't expect calm seas. They expect storms and train their mind to navigate them. Seneca wrote, "The wise man does not despise adversity. He welcomes it, knowing it is the raw material of strength." When you stop demanding life to be easy, you stop being broken when it's not. You start to see that every obstacle is not a punishment, but an invitation to practice mastery. This is what the modern world has forgotten, that strength is not found in control, but in composure. Because control is an illusion, composure is power. There comes a moment when you realize you can't control the world, not the weather, not other people, not the timing of fortune or loss. And in that moment you face a choice: to collapse into resentment and helplessness, or to turn inward and discover the one realm that's always been yours. The Stoics called this the inner citadel. It was their metaphor for an unshakable fortress within the mind, a place untouched by fortune, pain, or opinion. You can lose your home, your job, even your reputation, but if your inner citadel stands firm, you are still free. Epictetus understood this better than anyone. He had been born into slavery, beaten and treated as property, and yet he wrote about freedom as if it were already his. Because for him, freedom had nothing to do with circumstance. It was mastery of the self. He said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." The modern world often sells freedom as indulgence, to do whatever you want, whenever you want. But the Stoics would say that's not freedom, that's dependency. Because the person who must have comfort to be calm, who must have praise to feel worthy, who must be understood to be at peace, is not free at all. The Stoic shift begins the moment you stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "How will I meet this?" That's when your mind transforms from a victim of events into the author of meaning. This is where Stoicism becomes psychological, because every emotion we experience, fear, anger, jealousy, despair, is not caused by the event itself, but by our interpretation of it. A Stoic doesn't suppress emotion. They study it. They pause before reacting and ask, what belief created this feeling? Anger. It often hides an expectation that the world should obey you. Fear. It's the imagination of pain that hasn't happened yet. Jealousy. It's the belief that someone else's gain means your loss. When you learn to trace your emotions back to the beliefs that fuel them, you start to dismantle their power. You stop being dragged around by your reactions, and instead, you choose your response. That's where mastery begins. The Stoics practiced this daily. They reflected on every frustration, every insult, every setback, not as something to resent, but as a mirror. Marcus Aurelius wrote each night in his journal, not to boast about his victories, but to examine his failures, to ask himself, where did I lose my composure? Where did I act from ego instead of wisdom? He was an emperor, and yet his battlefield was always internal. And this is what modern Stoicism often misses. It's not about pretending you don't feel. It's about becoming so aware of what you feel that emotion no longer rules you. It's emotional self-awareness, not emotional denial. It's saying, I see my anger, but I will not be led by it. I feel fear, but I will walk anyway. I am in pain, but I will not make others pay for it. That is inner strength, and the more you practice it, the less you depend on the world to give you peace, because you've built it yourself. If there's one misconception about Stoicism that never seems to fade, it's the idea that Stoics don't feel, that they walk through life like statues, untouched by emotion, cold, distant, unfeeling. But that couldn't be further from the truth. The Stoics felt deeply. They loved, they grieved, they struggled. But the difference was, they refused to let emotion make them irrational. They didn't reject emotion, they refined it. Detachment for the Stoic was never about indifference. It was about clarity. Think of it like standing in front of a fire. If you step too close, you burn. If you stand too far, you freeze. But if you learn the right distance, you can harness the warmth without losing control. That's what Stoic detachment is. Not suppression, but relationship. A wise relationship with emotion. They knew that to feel deeply is part of being human, but to cling to those feelings, to make them your identity, that's where suffering begins. So, the Stoic trains their mind to observe emotion without becoming it. They can watch grief without drowning in it, feel anger without becoming cruel, experience fear without running away. This isn't apathy, it's power. Because when you can remain calm inside your emotions, you are no longer their prisoner. You are their master. Seneca once said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." And that's true of emotion as well. Most of our pain doesn't come from the feeling itself. It comes from our resistance to it, our attempts to escape it, deny it, or fight it. The Stoic doesn't escape emotion. They let it pass through them, like wind through an open window. In a world that constantly encourages reactivity, detachment feels radical. But it's what gives you composure in a fight, dignity in rejection, and silence in the face of insult. It doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care wisely. You care without losing yourself in the process. And perhaps the greatest misunderstanding of all is that Stoics are emotionless. In truth, they're the opposite. They're emotionally available without being emotionally vulnerable. They can love without fear of loss, help without need for credit, speak truth without needing approval. Because they've learned that control over emotion isn't about closing your heart. It's about opening it wisely. The Stoic doesn't turn away from life. They embrace it fully, but from a place of stillness, not desperation. Because when you stop needing every moment to go your way, you start seeing every moment as a lesson. And in that shift, pain becomes teacher. Loss becomes liberation. Silence becomes strength. That is the real Stoic detachment, not the death of emotion, but its purification. There is a kind of peace that only comes after the breaking, a silence that follows suffering, not because the pain is gone, but because you've stopped fighting it. The Stoics called this Amor Fati, the love of fate. It means not only accepting what happens, but embracing it as necessary, as something meant for you, not against you. To most people, that sounds impossible. How could you love what hurts you? How could you welcome the moments that nearly destroy you? But the Stoics understood something deeper, that pain itself is neutral. It becomes suffering only through resistance. When something painful happens, a betrayal, a failure, a loss, the instinct is to reject it. This shouldn't have happened. This isn't fair. This isn't me. But the Stoic pauses and asks instead, what if this too belongs? What if this experience, however painful, is a necessary part of your becoming? What if every difficulty you face is shaping a version of you that ease never could? Marcus Aurelius wrote, "A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it." That's what Amor Fati means, to take what life throws at you and use it as fuel for your own strength. Because when you stop wishing life were different, you start to see what you can create with what is. It's not about liking pain. It's about understanding that it's not your enemy. It's the forge that tempers the soul. Think about the hardest thing you've ever been through. The loss you thought you'd never recover from. The rejection that left you hollow. The failure that felt like the end. Now look at yourself. Would you have the same depth, the same empathy, the same perspective if those things hadn't happened? Probably not. Pain burns away illusion. It forces honesty. It makes you see what really matters. The Stoics didn't run from it. They met it. They saw every challenge as a chance to practice virtue, patience in delay, forgiveness in betrayal, courage in uncertainty. They believed that the world doesn't owe you comfort. It offers you opportunities to build character. So when life hurts, don't ask, why me? Ask, what is this trying to teach me? Because that question shifts you from victim to creator, from helplessness to purpose. Pain will still come. Stoicism doesn't stop that. But it teaches you to meet pain with open hands, not clenched fists. And that's the paradox of acceptance. The more you resist pain, the stronger it becomes. The more you accept it, the lighter it feels. Acceptance isn't giving up, it's growing up. It's realizing that peace doesn't mean having control, it means no longer needing it. When you can say, this moment too is my teacher, You become unbreakable, because then nothing can happen to you. Everything happens for you. Understanding Stoicism is one thing. Living it, that's the real test, because philosophy isn't meant to stay in books. It's meant to shape how you wake up, how you react, how you move through the smallest moments of your day. The Stoics practice this not through grand gestures, but through daily rituals that sharpened their awareness and discipline. In a world that pulls you in 1,000 directions, these practices bring you back to yourself. 1. Morning reflection, the day's first battle. When you wake up, don't rush into distraction. Don't reach for the phone or dive into noise. Marcus Aurelius began each morning by reminding himself, "You will meet people today who are selfish, ungrateful, arrogant. But they are like this because they do not know good from evil." He didn't say this with bitterness, but preparation. He expected challenge, and so should you. Before your day begins, pause. Visualize what might test you: frustration, delay, misunderstanding. Then tell yourself, "When this happens, I will remain calm." That single sentence, said with awareness, can change the entire rhythm of your day, because you've turned reaction into preparation. And preparation, the Stoics believed, is half of peace. 2. Evening journaling, the mirror of the mind. At night, take time to look back, not to judge yourself, but to learn yourself. Seneca wrote, "Each evening I examine my entire day and go back over what I've done and said. I hide nothing from myself. Write down what disturbed you, what triggered you, what you handled with grace. Ask, where did I lose my composure? Where did I choose wisdom over impulse?" This quiet reflection builds the muscle of awareness. It turns every mistake into a lesson, every day into a classroom, and with time you'll notice something. You begin to catch your emotions before they take over. That's mastery forming. That's freedom growing. 3. Voluntary discomfort, the practice of strength. The Stoics didn't seek luxury. They practiced discomfort deliberately, sleeping on the floor, skipping meals, walking in the cold, not to suffer, but to prepare. They understood that the more you expose yourself to voluntary hardship, the less power involuntary hardship has over you. If you've trained your mind to be content with little, you cannot be enslaved by desire. Try small things. Take a cold shower. Leave your phone behind for a walk. Eat simply for a day. Each act whispers to your mind, "I do not need comfort to be strong." And slowly you'll find that your peace is no longer fragile. It doesn't depend on circumstance. It lives in discipline. 4. Mindful detachment, the art of letting go. The modern world teaches us to cling to attention, to possessions, to validation. But Stoicism teaches release. When you feel yourself grasping for approval, control, or certainty, pause and breathe. Ask, is this within my power? If the answer is no, let it go. That's not weakness, it's wisdom. Because every moment you release what isn't yours, you reclaim your power over what is. These practices aren't rules, they're reminders. They're the invisible architecture that holds a Stoic mind together in a world that constantly tries to pull it apart. They don't make life easier, they make you stronger. And slowly, without noticing it, you begin to change. You become calmer in conflict, quieter in chaos, more grounded when others lose balance. That's when you realize the world hasn't become less chaotic. You've just become more still. It's easy to mistake Stoicism for emotional detachment, as if the Stoic is a cold observer, untouched by the world. But that's not what Marcus Aurelius or Seneca ever meant. The Stoic doesn't reject emotion, they purify it. They strip it of its chaos, its dependency, its endless craving to be validated. Because real love, real connection, can only exist when it's not a form of possession. The Stoic loves, not out of need, but out of choice. They understand that affection grounded in fear of loss isn't love, it's attachment disguised as devotion. Epictetus once said, "Never say of anything, 'I have lost it,' but say, 'I have returned it.' That includes people. When someone leaves your life, by choice, by distance, or by death, you have not lost them. You have simply returned what was never truly yours to keep." This sounds harsh until you understand what it frees you from, because when you stop clinging to permanence, you start loving more honestly. You stop trying to control the people you love. You stop expecting them to fill the spaces you refuse to face within yourself. That's the paradox of Stoic love. By letting go of ownership, you make space for real intimacy, the kind that isn't built on fear, the kind that doesn't demand, it understands. When Seneca's close friend Lucilius asked about grief, Seneca didn't tell him to suppress it. He told him to feel it, but not to drown in it. To let the tears come, but to remember that every person is born into change. Grief, then, is the proof that you've loved deeply, and wisdom is learning to let that love evolve rather than turn into bitterness. The Stoics didn't isolate themselves from others. They practiced compassion without attachment, kindness without expectation, presence without control, because they understood something we've forgotten, that the highest form of love isn't, "I need you." It's, "I see you." To see another person clearly, without projecting your desires, without needing them to be your escape. That's the purest form of affection there is. And when you love this way, you begin to see that every person, even the difficult ones, is part of the same human drama you are learning from. Marcus wrote, "When you wake up in the morning, remember, you share this world with others. Those who act out of ignorance, those who suffer, those who seek peace." That understanding transforms irritation into empathy, judgment into patience. Because when you see humanity as one collective struggle, you stop taking things so personally. You realize that everyone is fighting invisible battles, just like you. That realization, quiet, humble, compassionate, is the beginning of wisdom. And it's what makes Stoic love not cold, but strong. It doesn't collapse under pain. It doesn't fade when things change. It simply remains clear, steady, and kind. Because love to a Stoic is not an escape from suffering. It's what gives suffering meaning. We spend our lives chasing freedom. Freedom from worry, freedom from failure, freedom from the opinions of others. But most people misunderstand what freedom actually is. To the Stoics, freedom isn't doing whatever you want. It's not indulgence, rebellion, or control. True freedom is inner sovereignty, the power to remain calm no matter what happens outside you. Epictetus was a slave. His body was owned, his labor demanded, his movement restricted. Yet he spoke of freedom more than any emperor, because he had discovered that no one can enslave your mind unless you hand them the keys. He said, "There is only one way to happiness, to cease worrying about things which are beyond our power." It sounds simple, but it's the most radical act in a world addicted to control. We think peace will come when everything is stable, when our career is secure, when our relationships are predictable, when our body never fails us. But stability is an illusion. The Stoics saw this clearly. Everything changes, everything fades, and if your peace depends on what changes, you'll always live as a prisoner of circumstance. So they turned inward, not to escape the world, but to anchor themselves against its storms. They trained their minds to remain still even when everything around them trembled. That's the freedom paradox. You stop trying to control the external world, and suddenly it loses control over you. The more you let go, the lighter you become. You start seeing obstacles not as threats, but as invitations to grow stronger. You stop fearing discomfort and it loses its sting. You stop chasing validation and you finally feel enough. That's what the Stoics meant by peace, not numbness, not indifference, but the deep knowing that no matter what happens, you have the strength to respond well. It's not that life stops being chaotic, it's that you stop being ruled by chaos. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his final years, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That's the ultimate lesson of Stoicism, not to escape life, but to master your way through it, with stillness, with clarity, with compassion. Because once you understand that no one can take away your ability to think clearly, to act with integrity, to remain at peace, you are untouchable. You become free, not because life becomes easier, but because you finally stop needing it to be. As we reach the end of this journey, pause for a moment and take a deep breath. Look back at the path we've walked together, from cultivating purpose to mastering the mind, to embracing adversity, to finding love and freedom, not in circumstance, but in the strength of your own spirit. These principles are not abstract ideals meant to sit on a shelf. They are living tools. They are practices that can shape every day, every interaction, every decision. Stoicism teaches us that life will never stop throwing challenges our way. Chaos, conflict, loss, fear, these are inevitable. But the power to navigate them, to stand calm amid the storm, to respond rather than react, that power is always within you. Imagine waking up tomorrow carrying this wisdom. You can face criticism without crumbling. You can meet pain without bitterness. You can love without clinging. You can act without impulse. You can remain free even when the world feels like a cage. Every principle we've explored is a step on that path. Firm purpose grounds you. Guarding the mind protects you. Transforming offense liberates you. Overcoming fear strengthens you. Anticipating obstacles prepares you. Inner strength sustains you. Restraint guides your actions. Acceptance turns suffering into growth. Stoic love deepens your humanity. Living according to nature aligns you with the world. Taken together, they form a shield not against life, but for life. And here's the truth that Stoics lived by, quietly, without fanfare. You don't need the world to be kind. You don't need it to be fair. You don't need it to understand you. All you need is mastery over your own mind, because when you have that, you carry your own stability, your own freedom, your own peace. So begin again tomorrow. Reflect on your purpose. Notice your impulses. Respond with wisdom, not reaction. Meet life as it comes, not as a threat, but as a teacher. And in that practice, over time, you will find something remarkable. Life does not have to control you. Pain does not have to define you. Chaos does not have to overwhelm you. You become still. You become centered. You become free. This is the quiet power of Stoicism, not a shield that keeps life away, but a light that shows you how to move through it with grace, strength, and clarity. If you found value in this journey through Stoic wisdom, take a moment to reflect and share your thoughts in the comments below. Which principle resonated with you the most? Which one will you start practicing tomorrow? If you want more guidance on living with clarity, strength, and calm, be sure to like this video, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a path to inner mastery. So now, take a deep breath and carry this wisdom forward. The world will still spin, storms will still come, and yet you will stand unshaken. Because the fortress of peace, the anchor of freedom, the source of true strength, has always been inside you.